Hello, this is Greg Allison with Green Greg coming to you on the 16th of October, 21. Time on deck is 1700 hours Central Daylight Time. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chinese have tested a new frightening super weapon. They have done a test flight of this weapon, and it could go operational, maybe even faster than we would like to imagine. As a matter of fact, this weapon really stunned U.S. intelligence and defense officials. They had no idea that something like this was at hand, afoot, because this new weapon, ladies and gentlemen, combined fractional orbital bombardment, something we have long been concerned of and feared, which the Russians started developing early in the 60s, and fortunately the negotiation treaties abandoned it, and hypersonic glide vehicles, all in one vehicle, and they have test fired this thing. And this poses a huge threat to the United States, to the world, especially if they equip this. Oh, it's a nuclear capable weapon on top of that. And if they equip it with an EMP super weapon, guys, this could be, the problem with this is you won't see it coming. You won't hear it. You won't see it. Suddenly, boom, no warning. And you're done just like that. That's why this weapon is so frightening. Unlike weapons that we've contended with before, we knew they would be coming, and you could at least prepare, run for your bunker, launch a counter strike. You know where it came from. This, you're going to know not where it comes from. Suddenly, it just goes boom. That's the scary thing. That's about what it boils down to, and it's fast. The warning time isn't there at all, because you're not going to detect it, most likely. And if you do detect it, it's going to be coming in so fast, you're not going to know where it came from, and yikes, it's going to be over before you know, because this vehicle can glide it has quite a range of thousands of miles of gliding because of the hypersonic speed that's coming in with the kinetic speed being launched from a missile. So this weapon is something that we got to talk about. You got to be concerned with. It's a game changer on their side, and they may just be enticed to use it sooner than you think because of their designs vis-a-vis Taiwan. Now we're going to go all into this here as we talk in this video, and I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about, look, I'm going to show what fractional orbital bombardment is. We're going to talk about this hypersonic glide vehicle. We're going to talk about this test. We're going to talk about EMP and a brief mention of a potential North Korean fractional orbital bombardment system. So my friends, we are in perilous times, and the danger seems to be getting bigger and bigger, and we're discovering new things every day. It's like we're living in about 10 of your worst science fiction movies you can imagine, grade B ones, all coming true at once. This is a nightmare, but we can survive it. But it's going to take some vigilance, collectively or maybe individually at least. The proposition of my channel is to help you survive, thrive, and stay out of the hive. And I bring you this and many other stories. This is part of my eyes wide open head on a swivel series. And my faithful followers I refer to as swivel heads, because I know you're doing that. And I try to help you be aware of these things. Why? So that you'll know to prep, to get ready, maybe how to prep, what the dangers. You can share these messages. Often I bring you things that we can do about these things, how that we can thwart them, how that we can get involved. There's a lot more than the Prepper Channel is bringing. I'll bring you some of the nation's top experts on some of these topics. That's all I'm going to be bringing you next week, including Dr. Peter Pye is coming back on my channel Tuesday, and David Pine on Thursday, and more to come. All right, so subscribe to my channel, bang the upvote notification bell, and click all so that you can see things like that. And also, what can you do to make your family's survival chances greater, like growing your own food? I cover that. How to grow your food when you can't go to the store to buy fertilizer and pesticide, using worm products, composting techniques. I cover that. How to really grow your own, all by your own self. How to eat free from the weeds and the trees. But there are difficulties with gardening, especially when you're starting it out, and you might be shy of carbs and protein when you're eating from the weeds and the trees. So that's a skill you got to develop over time, although it will help you stretch your supplies. So I highly encourage it. I highly encourage you to get to the big box stores right now and stock up as much as you can. given everything that's coming at us. I've done 2 videos on big box stores too, but I also have another special that would really help you get prepared in such a way that will last you for a long time. Because if you go to prepwithgreg.com, you can get $100 off a 3-month supply of this easy to carry, easy to store food. This is a 2-week supply in this box. You will get 6 of these boxes with 3 months supply, $100 off. This is breakfast, lunch, and dinner. 2,000 calories a day, unlike all the other companies, supplies to carry you through, which really only amount to 800 calories a day. This will take you through breakfast, lunch, and dinner, desserts and drinks. This deal will make you a winner. It's a great deal. It's storable, it's carryable, it lasts at quality at least 25 years, should actually go much longer, and it's real food. It's just freeze dried. That's why it is so lightweight, and it reconstitutes. I'm gonna have to do some cooking videos of this stuff one day. But it's an awesome deal, guys, because it's easy to store, and these buckets will have use after it. And if you have to bug out in a backpack, guess what? These are nice pouches that you can put in a backpack. The competitor's pouch is about 4 times bigger sometimes, and their buckets are big totes. They're not easy to carry. So your kids can carry these. You can put them in a boat, put them in your car, put them in your RV, have some excellence. Go out and dig a hole around, have caches. That's the way you save the days. All right, enough stuff on that. Just go to prepwithgreg.com. All right, so let's get into this. I'm going to share some articles here so you can see that this is not just Greg Allison talking off the cuff, that we're talking about some real things out here. Bing. So here it is, an article in the Drive on this fractional orbital bombardment hypersonic vehicle. Yeah, it's going to look like this. So they're looking more at the hypersonic fractional orbital bombardment system. This is a hybrid new development that has really got people in the Defense Department really alarmed. So they're talking about 5 independent sources here that have confirmed this. This was launched in August, and apparently it orbited Earth and came down within 12 miles of their actual intended target with their first test, which isn't bad for first test, but with nuclear systems, 12 miles, is still pretty darn close. If it's an EMP super weapon, it don't matter because you're detonated at high altitude, and being off 100 miles won't make a whole big difference because it would devastate the United States either way. So yeah, this is what I'm worried about, guys. So they launched this thing on a Long March. Let's see, what we'll get into here in a minute. So yeah, Long March 2C rocket is what they launched it on for this test flight. But so they're getting along with this. So this article is concerned about going operational. If they just want to do an EMP attack, they could actually do that with a test vehicle. We didn't see this thing. We didn't hear it. This knowledge came to us later. So some sort of projections could be made if mid-course orbital vehicle can be tracked. That would be a real challenge. So they're talking about regular fractional orbital bombardment system, but this combined as a hypersonic vehicle, well, you're not going to do that. That's the problem. It's you're not going to see it coming because why? I'll show you in a little bit. I'm not going to read everything in this article. I'm just going to skip through some things. Here's another article about the launch of this thing, and I'm having to fight Zoom here. A ballistic missile. Now, here's what ballistic missiles usually do. Let me bring Earth up here. Ballistic missiles usually launch from one continent, intercontinental ballistic missiles, and hit another continent, but they go on a ballistic flight. So to get the velocity, they're not orbital, but to get the velocity, they launch in distance. They launch them really high, and then the kill vehicle spread out from the original launch vehicle and go in for their intended targets. The advantage to the other side is when this thing goes high, it's easier to detect from the radars over here and see it coming. You get a warning at least that something's coming, which allows you to either counterattack or run for your bunkers, and hopefully both. Maybe you'd have defensive measures that would stop these things, like was developed initially under Ronald Reagan's programs, the Strategic Defense Initiative Office, popularly known as Star Wars, which was headed by my friend Ambassador Hank Cooper, who have interviewed on this channel and may be coming back in the not too distant future. Hank Cooper. So, and I have worked this system, my friends. I've worked the Army's interceptors, exo-atmospheric reentry interceptor subsystem, the ARIS project office. I was there in the late 80s. Okay, so to show you here, that's the old V2 rocket, that was developed by people like my old friend Conrad Dannenberg, who did injector systems and injectors in the engines. So we're not going to go through that much more. I'm going to show you personally what this orbit means. But see, a fractional orbital system don't go near as high over the Earth, not hundreds and hundreds or thousands of miles up. It's going about the orbit height, which is about 100 miles. So you got less time to detect it from the other side. See these, I wish I can move this diagram down. Maybe I can't. Nope. A intercontinental ballistic missile goes really high up and comes down. These go like they're going into orbit, which is only about 100 miles. Guys, Earth's 8,000 miles in diameter. 100 miles is nothing. It's just skimming over the skin of the Earth, actually. Yeah, you could do like 100 miles for a very low Earth orbit type system. And you're not going to see it coming. You're not going to see the missile, especially if you got a glide vehicle attached to it, such that this thing ditches in the ocean, releases the glide vehicle, and it's got enough kinetic energy to come in under these radars and travel for thousands of miles, which this thing can obviously do, moving along about Mach 6 to 5, maybe Mach 6. This thing would come in under these radars. So they go beep, chunk or bring the vehicle down and come in with that glide vehicle. You won't even see it. It will come in, and it could even come in and see. Most of our radars looking at this kind of stuff are in the dew line. I'm going to show you this stuff in my little Earth model here in a minute, which is around the polar regions. Well, this kind of system, fractional orbital bombardment, they could actually launch over the South Pole, over Antarctica, and it's coming up like a satellite, and you won't see it. And I think that's mentioned here. Yeah, it's over the South Pole. See, all the NORAD stuff faces the north. You're not going to see it coming at all. That's what you got to be worried about here. This talks about various fractional orbital bombardment systems and how we wound up not having them thanks to treaties and other things. But this is something that has really worried our defense community, the idea that a weapon system like this might get developed. And what's happened? China just went out and did it. Why I worry more about electromagnetic pulse, my friends, is because you don't have to be that accurate. I mean, they could have this thing come in and glide down and then just shoot up in the sky and go off. It's kind of kinetic energy. It could do this glide and then pop up, get some altitude to make the maximum effective range. The high altitude electromagnetic pulse more effective, like a tall radio antenna. So everything within sight is fried. Okay, as you might know, somewhere in here, here's a diagram. If you get a weapon go off here between the Dakotas, basically showing how it would affect the entire United States from an EMP. And I've mentioned before to you guys that there's 3 waveforms in a nuclear EMP, E1, E2, and E3. E1 is that shorter wavelength frequencies that can fry smaller electronic components. You only get this with a nuclear electromagnetic pulse. And the E2 is like very similar to lightning, but it's not just in one bolt or strike, it's going everywhere. E3 is more like what you see from the sun with the mass ejection. These are longer waves. These E3 waves can last tens of hundreds of seconds. So, the system that might have saved you up here in your electronics on E1 will get cooked under an E3. So all these different devices people are hawking, you better be very cautious of them. I don't think most of them are even good for E1. Well, I've talked about that in the past. I can go in more detail in the future. But what we know is, check this out. Check out what it says here. According to a statement made in writing by the Chinese military, remember I've said in other videos that stuff coming out from the Chinese military, it's got to be approved by the Chinese Communist Party. It's got to be doctrine. It's got to be official. So when the military publishes it, you can take it to the bank that that's what's on their mind. According to a statement made in writing by the Chinese military, the country has super EMPs and has discussed their use in attacking Taiwan. Such an attack would be a deliberate Information systems, debilitate. Okay, yeah, the power grids too. So the idea is to take out the command and control and the power of people in Taiwan. So, but in addition to Taiwan, the possible implications of attacking the United States with these weapons was examined by China. Not only that, but they claim if they go to war with us, that's their first thing they're going to do. Both them and the Russians say that. While the United States also possesses nuclear weapons, the country has not experimented with super EMPs. So that's what we're talking about. To give you an idea, we were expecting the EMP weapon to put about 50,000 volts per meter on a line, a wire, a power line or something like that. A super EMP, which is what we've hardened our facilities to. Unfortunately, super EMP can put 200,000 volts per meter. So it is far more dangerous, far more effective at frying things than a regular nuclear weapon, and which includes a lot of our facilities that we had thought would be hardened against them. So this goes into various aspects of that. I'm not going to read any of these articles directly to you. I might read an excerpt from them. One of the downsides of having the Defense Department's grids fried or comm systems fried here in the United States and having something that exceeds our hardening requirements is that we lose abilities to send out things like an emergency action message. This is the kind of message that's sent out to the forces in the field that says launch, when to launch, how to launch, who to attack, all the target information. Without these messages, they're not permitted to conduct a launch. So a lot of us go, well, yeah, well, if these guys attack us, our submarines will pop up and get them. Not if they don't get this message. If the homeland is fried and can't get a message out, it ain't happening. So the question is, are we hardened sufficiently to stop all these things from getting fried and still get these messages out, or not? I say not. Also, there's this KMS satellite that orbits Earth that, let me stop this, share. That's in Earth orbit right now, going around the Earth. And it has been since 2016, just right after North Korea did what they call their hydrogen bomb test. Now, an acquaintance of mine, James Orberg, he's a little bit more distant acquaintance, and we've talked, emailed, and so forth. He actually was invited. He was the only aerospace engineer. He's also a journalist and an aerospace engineer, invited in to see, American even, invited in to see North Korea's launch complex directly. He went there at their invitation because they were going to prove to him they were just launching a peaceful satellite. So they showed him this satellite, says, this is what we're going to launch. Well, the problem is they didn't let him witness the installation of that satellite into the launched rocket. And so when they said, well, see, we launched this peaceful satellite, asked James Orberg. James, no, I cannot say that because I did not see you install that satellite. I asked you to let me see that you install that satellite, and you wouldn't let me see that. So I don't know what you launched on that bird. And frankly, between the time they showed them that and they launched that place, they probably didn't have time to launch put that satellite in there and integrate it anyway. So he is highly skeptical about that, especially given a lot of other defensive measures and things taken by North Korea to camouflage that site and to build an underground railroad to it so they could sneak payloads in. He's talked about some of these things. So, and he's not a political kind of animal like a lot of us, but he's a journalist and an engineer. And he's been writing stuff since, I remember reading his articles when I was 18 years old, going, wow. So I'm glad to know the guy. Anyway, so let's talk about this. I'm going to show you something real quick. Here's my little Earth, okay? And this is this is the little squeeze ball Earth. If you get stressed out and you're a big giant ogre, you squeeze the Earth, right? Some creatures like you see in Star Trek, hold this Enterprise a hand in space. All right, I'm having a little fun here, but this is a very morbid topic. So this is some notion of North America. Well, right along the edge, northern edge of North America and Greenland, which that's not a really good Greenland, Alaska, Canada, Alaska, Greenland, we've got what we call the dew line. It's a bunch of radars that are aimed north looking for these missiles, which would launch coming from Russia right here. They would come up real high, back down, boom. Now, these satellites look, if this was 8,000 miles in diameter, 100-mile orbit, you know, I can't even get it under my finger going across there. I mean, it's just right up on the surface. Okay. So now if you've got something you can launch like orbital velocity, and say you want to launch in a direction you're going like east, you know, they might launch you here, and most of the stuff would dive down underneath the radars, and we got nothing watching this direction. Well, then they come in and just hit cities, or go up in the atmosphere and set off a high altitude electromagnetic pulse. No, not the stuff that some people smokes, but you know, it'll be in those weapon systems, and electrical engineering have a little different notion of what hemp is. That's a really bad thing. High altitude electromagnetic pulse, nuclear in origin. So, of course, they could launch over the South Pole with big rockets that come right up and get us here. So they could do that, South Pole and underneath. So how do you flat earthers explain a polar orbiting satellite that's launching it's going from north to east, from south to north? I've seen them. I lived in Alaska. You see them go over. Anyway, and they're not satellites. Satellites don't work at those altitudes. Okay, I mean, balloons don't. Balloons don't work at those altitudes. I know. I've launched balloons, plenty of them. I know what the constraints are in balloon launches. I can talk to you to make your ears fall off. Okay, guys. So there you go. China has developed a super weapon of a fractional orbital bombardment system combined with a hypersonic glide vehicle. Again, so that vehicle could be ditched, most of it, or even the warhead dips down under the horizon before it gets within your radars, because you can only see, you know, you got a radar here, it's going to see right straight up. Anything that comes in underneath it, you're not going to see it because you're looking up this way. So you're looking for something launching high and coming down, but they come up under you. But they might not even come up under you. They may sneak around, dive down, and just glide. These things have a glide path capability of several thousand miles. Not good. So they could literally put a sneak attack. So once this whole thing is operational, yeah, they could do an entire sneak attack and take out all kind of military installations and cities or other targets here in the United States if they so chose. Or even while it's still in experimental phase, if they decide that they're about to jump on Taiwan, they want to take us out, so we won't do anything about it, an EMP weapon. Or maybe they get somebody else to do the bidding for them. They might go to North Korea and to doing that, launch them from off the coast of Venezuela down here and coming up over our Gulf Coast and getting us. Of course, that might just be a subboard, you know, not an intercontinental, but a continental or smaller ballistic missile, a theater ballistic missile. Alrighty, it's late. I'm tired. I got a party to do the farmers market today, so I'm going to wrap this up. But ladies and gentlemen, be very wary today. Yeah, we may have an attack, and you just may be driving along one day, and all your systems fail in your car, and you see cars everywhere stranded, and you get out and you go, I got to get home. Or I got to get it in my Bugout location. You better have a Bugout bag in your car, and it better have some water and some very lightweight food for you. Okay. Because you know, that car, the highways may be jammed. You're gonna walk home or somewhere else at that point. If you're home, you know, watching me on YouTube, and suddenly the computer and lights goes out, peef, it might be over. Of course, it just might be somebody ran into a power pole. That's what you hope. But we're getting really serious times here. Here's what I worry about. Why do I worry about this? Let me rephrase that. China had long-range plans where they were going to be in 2050, but their economy was built on export manufacturing and the real estate market. And the real estate market was a pyramid scheme of sorts. They're just not pyramid scheme, but they would just thought they could infinitely hide the debts they were building up. And you know, they were hiring people to build cities and towns and buildings that they weren't even occupying. And a lot of those that did occupy was made out of, what they call it, there's a word for it in China for the buildings they make that just crumble on touch. Cheap concrete is of no value, no good. So these guys skimped on a lot of this stuff, and a lot of these buildings are trash, brand new buildings that people are living in. So the real estate market in China is about to bust. The manufacturing has gone south big time because of a multitude of things, including the log jam at the ports, but mainly in China because they're having to shut the factories down due to a lack of coal. You know, it's what they get from embargo in Australia. Sometimes things fire back on you, backfire. All right, so China, I will submit this. They may be getting desperate. They may be dangerous. Got to remember, a dictator usually gets to that level by stepping hard on a lot of other people. So they climb their way to the top to be a dictator. They're usually sociopaths. A sociopath only cares about themselves and their power, their aggrandizement. They don't care about their people. So that makes them a country run by a sociopath, and the whole world with a sociopath running a nation like China in grave danger. In grave danger. So don't think he's going to think logically like you or I. His metric is going to be, what's it take for me to stay in power? All right, I've said it several times before. Said enough on this, guys. Be prepared. Get prepared. Go to the store. Start going now. Things are getting short, and there's no relief now. They're claiming 2023 if we can get there. Hopefully, peace through strength will get us there. We've got to get Taiwan up to being such a prickly prickle bear that no country would dare want to bite it. And maybe that would thwart the Chinese action. Okay, peace through strength. This other route to peace is not seeming to work. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, enough said on all these things. Consider this, buy your seeds now for your garden for next spring in case the grid goes down and you can't order any. Go to my link, the True Leaf Market. Well, I'm going to say a very hearty thank you for watching.